Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937, with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to local, national, and an international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by J.P. Morgan Chase, a partner in financial planning. Looking ahead to retirement, growing your business, or for commercial banking, J.P. Morgan Chase offers advice and solutions tailored to individual needs and client well-being. More information is at jpmorganchase.com.
From Tsunami Sushi in downtown Lafayette, we're out to lunch with Christian Mader, editor and publisher of The Current. It's business, Acadiana style.
Welcome to Out to Lunch. I'm Christian Mader. There's always something to do in Acadiana, and that's great if you're a consumer. Options for lifestyle and entertainment are a big part of your quality of life. But if you're on the business side of the equation, an endless supply of activities means a crowded and competitive market. Lafayette is a small market. That means we're often off the radar for national tours in the performing arts space, but for years, we've had a steady stream of acclaimed productions and performers coming to town, and my guest, Jackie Lyle, has had a big hand in making that happen. Jackie has worked in performing arts promotion and advocacy for decades now. She currently serves as Executive Director of Performing Arts Serving Acadiana, a nonprofit she founded to advance, no surprise here, performing arts in Acadiana. Most locals just call it PASA. If that sounds like a wide lens, it is. PASA supports all kinds of programs and shows. Jackie has staged performances by leading dance companies like Ailey II or the Kyiv City Ballet. They host jazz quartets, cabarets, jazz off-Broadway productions, and more. Access is a key goal here. PASA brings these performers and performances to local schools and makes space for people with disabilities to get involved through the Possible initiatives. PASA also set up a music instrument recycling program called Play It Again. Jackie has spent most of her life in Lafayette, and before her career in arts advocacy, she worked in advertising and marketing. Jackie Lyle, thank you. Welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thanks for having me.
Being a small market means Lafayette can struggle to attract big city amenities. Point in case, ask anyone when we're getting a Trader Joe's. But when the national brands arrive, it can pay off big time. Lafayette is a small fish in the stable of Top Golf, but it's a location that's punching well above its weight. My guest, Brian Roger, is the operations manager for the Lafayette location. And if you're not familiar with Top Golf, it's a international brand of hyped-up driving ranges. The facilities are huge. They're like parking decks that serve food, beer, and golf balls by the thousand. Brian says top golfers will hit about 20,000 golf balls on a slow day. Brian got his start with Top Golf by the way of the restaurant industry. He grew up in a restaurant family and was previously an operations manager for Mexican food chain Chuy's. Brian was born in Lafayette but grew up in Mandeville, and he returned to Acadiana about 20 years ago. Brian Roger, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you for having me.
So, you know, Jackie, I think of the seasons that you put together, the quality of production that you're able to attract to the city, and you know, it kind of has me thinking, does it take convincing to get them there? I mean, when you're...
No, it takes money.
It takes money, okay. Well,
it takes two things.
Okay.
A date on their calendar, and preferably a date when they're out on tour, and we're not having to fly everybody in.
Yeah.
And the availability of a venue.
So, I mean, just thinking about that from the calendar perspective, I mean, how far in advance is, say, an off-Broadway production even booking their tour?
Well, you know, every booking agent wants it to be booked 18 months or 2 years in advance, but that's not really the reality, because all of us have to keep our business going and see what our business looks like. Sure. But, you know, some things, like I can't remember, it was in the 90s, Wynton Marsalis' tour manager called 8 weeks before a date and said, hey, look, we need a spot to perform between the Jazz Fest and San Angelo, Texas. Mm-hmm. Can you have us? And I said, okay, well, let's talk about the money, because I got to find a venue. Yeah. And so we worked out a deal. Yeah. And name like Wynton Marsalis, you don't need any time to market.
Sure.
You just say, hey, Wynton is coming, and then they come.
I mean, are you having to just bank that off of what you hope to sell on tickets? I mean, do you have to have a seed fund to make something like that? I mean, if like Wynton Marsalis calls you, right, you're like, you want to make that happen. As you just said, you don't really need the marketing. Right. People are going to buy shows, but there's still a question of cost involved.
It's just like every other business, Christian. You know, you do your assessment of your risk, how you're going to mitigate the risk. Are there sponsors who are coming in? Will you be able to sell the tickets? Well, with Wynton Marsalis, there's no question, and we did it at Angel Hall that only seats 820 so people.
Right.
And we ended up with like 100 people standing. So that's an easy call. There are other things. Every show we do is a huge risk. And, our income streams have to be activated, our grants, our corporate sponsorship, our individual support, from private people, and then our box office.
Yeah.
When, I started the first PASA in 1989. That was an entirely different scene as from today.
Yeah.
So today is so programming and audiences follow brands. That really wasn't the case so much in the 80s and the 90s. Not even in the early 2000s. But today it is about the brand. So how do you make an artist become a brand in today's times? I mean, in your role at the Current, you know that too.
I'm working on my brand every day, Jackie.
Yes.
Brian, I kind of have a similar thought process here, right? I mean, Topgolf opened its first Louisiana location in Baton Rouge, right? It's an international brand. I mean, it comes from the UK. I'm thinking even Baton Rouge, though, for a lot of states is sort of a secondary market. So is Lafayette as small of a market as Topgolf will go to, or are there smaller towns that could get a Topgolf?
There are smaller towns. They have some venues that only have one floor. There's only a handful of those, but those go to the smaller markets. Then they have all your big major markets, but I'm not really sure if their thing is to go around following the colleges.
Okay.
And that's why they went to Baton Rouge first,
Sure.
And then they're coming to UL.
Yeah.
They are looking at New Orleans area, so that's we are hoping for 2025, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Probably 2026. But no, they definitely have smaller venues.
So I mean, besides a college, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it would be you could see lots of frat guys, right, with golf clubs and beers and stuff. It's a good time.
It is.
Yeah. But besides that, I mean, what do they really need in a market to make a Topgolf work? Is it just a function of, income distribution and, what sort of population's there? I mean, what are the ingredients that make a successful Topgolf location?
Well, you definitely look at all those things. You look at the average income per household and all those things. Lafayette has a lot of wealth here that we know. And it's just something that they also track to see how many people were coming from Lafayette going to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So whenever we opened this location, it definitely took a lot of traffic out of Baton Rouge because they're not traveling. I know that I went to Baton Rouge several times for my nephew's birthday parties and stuff like that. So there was a want for Lafayette.
Yeah.
Originally it was supposed to go somewhere on Johnston Street over by the mall area. And then this spot came up and we changed locations, and it's been a great spot right there next to Costco, everything else. You have the apartment complexes right next to us. You have the brand new ones that they're building right behind the nets. So there's a lot up and coming in Lafayette.
Yeah.
It's still growing. It's small, and that's what I tell everybody from my corporate level that come from Dallas and stuff like that. It's a little bitty town, but it's huge for us.
Yeah. I mean, Jackie, I got to think that you might run into a similar sort of song and dance, no pun intended, where you've got your booking and there's some question of where does Lafayette geographically fit on a tour, where an artist might say, well, yeah, we'd love to come there, but we're concerned if we plant in Lafayette that might draw audience that we might otherwise get from another market. I mean, does that work to our advantage or to our disadvantage?
It really is not a factor because we know from our history of zip codes where people come from. So I have no concern about an artist performing in Lafayette and also in Baton Rouge. I have more of a concern about an artist performing in Lafayette and at the Opera House in Crowley.
Sure, yeah.
But generally speaking, our big no-no is we will not book anything without an exclusion of any casino in Louisiana. Because casinos have the ability to support a show in so many other ways than we do.
Yeah. So you were talking earlier, just sort of, you kind of sketched out the financial model here, right? There's the ticket sales, the sponsor element, right? I mean, was that mix of revenue streams sort of always the game? Like going back to the 80s?
Oh, not in the beginning when we started in 1989.
Yeah.
We were just ticket sales, and we didn't know. Remember, I came from a journalism background.
Right.
And I had great marketing training and great sales training, and I had some sensibility around performing arts. But after that, we were picking up the embers of the Fine Arts Foundation and moving forward with that. So at that point, it was really private donations and ticket sales. And then we started with corporate sponsorships, and then there was a great grant program that the state offered. And we were successful applicants for that program. And as we grew in all areas in sophistication, we also grew in sophistication in how to generate different forms of revenue and to activate different revenue streams. And as everybody in business knows, you may have a steady income stream, but you need to continue to look for new revenue streams.
Right.
So that's what we did.
So, I mean, Brian, I have to imagine that, a lot of entertainment experience type businesses, like the thing that you're trying to, the Topgolf element is what gets people there, but I'm imagining you actually make money off of food and drinks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We do. You just have to create a fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
The music that you're playing, the level that you play it at, the fun and games that you have with we call them playmakers, we don't call them staff,
Yeah.
but our playmakers going up and down, moments that matter, signs, screaming big happy birthdays and all those kinds of things, just creating that fun, upbeat place where you want to be.
Do I understand right that you Topgolf employs 200 people in the Lafayette location?
We're right under.
What are 200 people doing at a Topgolf?
Everything.
Okay.
I tell people all the time, you can't imagine working anywhere else and then going to Topgolf, the amount of support that you have for every position that you're in.
Yeah.
Everybody has help, and it just makes it that much more fun. We call them bayhosts, where most places we call them servers. They've got somebody that's going to get the drinks ready for them. They got people that are going to run the drinks for them, run food, all those kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
Then you got people that are going up and down the tee line and getting bags for the juniors or the toddlers and stuff like that, and helping clean up. Everything. We do all our own maintenance also. So we have a maintenance crew that's on there. It's about 15 people just in maintenance that they're just waiting for a ball dispenser to get jammed or TV to go out or something like that, and they go and save the day.
I mean, Jackie, I have to say, I think you're on the other end of that spectrum,
Absolutely.
right? There's Jackie. I mean, I feel like you've had employees in the past, maybe one or two, right?
Well, actually, there's two of us who are full-time and then a handful of part-timers.
Sure, yeah.
And we have two interns who are seniors in the music business program at the university. An internship at PASA is not study hall.
Yep.
Each intern has to produce a show.
Wow.
And we certainly back them up and provide guidance and catch them if they trip, but we are all there to put on a show.
Can you unpack for us a little bit when you say produce a show?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that's probably a big thing. We could probably just talk for 30 minutes just about that. But when you say an intern is going to produce a show, what does that mean?
So an intern is going to go through our checklist before a performance and make sure that everything on the checklist is done, all the way down to thank you notes and stewardship packages to sponsors. So insurance, security, locations for outreach activities. Is the stage crew in place? Do we have backline ordered? Everything that goes into a show, whether or not we know it's already done, it's still on the checklist. And that's how interns learn. And then we have another document that describes everything that has to be done on a daily basis 5 weeks before performance, which actually is about 9 weeks before performance. And that's how we roll. We start, and to echo his thought, we want to have fun. I don't want to work any place that's not fun.
Sure.
And our work is very hard, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone, whether they're an intern or a staff member, is learning, including me. So my new learning thing is about AI.
Sure.
And about marketing.
Yeah.
And about digital marketing, because I'm an old school print person.
Yeah. Do you find that this is the best education that somebody wanting to get into booking a promotion can go through? Like, I'm trying to think, could you get a degree in that? I mean, I mean, they have music business programs, sure,
Right.
but you're talking about something far more experience-oriented than you could really get out of a classroom.
Oh, there's nothing like the School of Hard Knocks.
Sure.
And, that's when we started the previous PASA in 1989, my experience was this, that I had grown up playing music, dancing, and going to performances and athletic events because my dad was a coach. And so that's all entertainment. What Top Golf does is entertainment. What we do is entertainment. Every time the gate opens at a football game, that's entertainment. Basketball is entertainment. So I was in that world, and there's really no way to learn except by doing it. You can get a master's degree in arts administration, and one is offered at UNO, but how to put on a show, how to market, how to pick artists. Selecting artists is really almost an intuitive thing. I mean, it can be based on ticket sales reports, and it can be based on your past history, but at the end of the day, if I'm sitting in an audience and I don't feel a zing going back and forth between the artist on stage and me, or the audience in general, then I'm not booking the show.
Yeah. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Christian Mader. Talking with Jackie Lyle, Executive Director of PASA, and Brian Roger, Operations Manager for Topgolf Lafayette. Brian, it strikes me that Topgolf, in a way, is sort of like a bowling alley. And I'm bringing this up not to sort of say it's like a bowling alley, but to think about what other kind of competitors a Topgolf would actually have. I mean, just sort of stuff to do in general, but in a lot of ways, the business structure is not that new. I mean, we've had entertainment sort of attached to restaurant sort of concepts in the past. I mean, does Topgolf generally see itself say, okay, well, it's really just the experience of you're going to stand 2 stories up and, slap a golf ball 300 yards into the ether, or is it something else that you have to do to sort of plant the flag and say, this is where you want to spend your time and money?
There's a lot of celebrations that can happen there. Birthdays, all that kind of stuff. Birthdays, we call the last swing before the ring for people that are getting married.
People are going to keep swinging after the ring, I think, if history shows.
But it's the last one.
It's the last one. All right. Yeah, sure.
And then, we do everything from, we have a coach there.
Yeah.
He teaches lessons. We have academies in the summertime for the kids. They can go. Parents just drop them off and then come back and pick them up around noon.
Yeah.
So there's all different kinds of things for them to do. It's just a lot of fun.
Is there a lot that goes into the restaurant developments? I mean, I'm thinking like your background coming from restaurants. I mean, are they having to tailor menus to markets, or is it kind of a standardized fare? I mean, what's going on there?
Standardized. There's a couple of the markets, the smaller markets like I was telling you about, that only have 1 floor. They'll have a specialized menu.
Yeah.
And then Las Vegas, which is the monster, it has 4 floors.
Okay.
They have a specialized menu for them, and they'll carry different things.
Can you
all
get
the
married
different...
there? Could you get the ring and then... because like Vegas would be
Yeah,
the
I guess you could. Maybe you can get Elvis to come over and, do the ceremony. I'm sure it's been done or talked about.
Sure.
But there's most of the menus are the same thing.
Yeah.
A couple times a year we do, we call innovation contest, to where each venue can turn in a recipe to go into a contest, and then they'll pick those and they'll roll those out the following year. Last year we won for the beverage side.
Yeah.
So my food and beverage director, she got to go to Las Vegas to the venue and present her drink. We didn't win for the whole country, but she got the experience.
Yeah, it's great.
It's something pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was actually doing emails before I came here, and it's time for the next innovation one.
Cool.
So we're gonna have to put on our thinking hats and see what we can get in there.
Yeah.
Because we want to make another trip.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to roll back even to the beginning. I think first thing I said in the show, there's sense, right, where people say there's always something to do in Lafayette. I mean, I guess I kind of want to roll back and second guess myself. I mean, Jackie, is that true? I mean, do you find that you're having to compete with a busy schedule, or is it, there are too many options, there are not enough options? I mean, it seems like what you do fits in a nice spot. Don't get me wrong. I guess I'm just trying to understand, in a general sense, programming, entertainment. You're trying to get people to come. It's not just another show. It's the
Right.
other stuff that people have to do, right?
Well, there's a couple of schools of thought there. If every single person in Lafayette Parish showed up at one place at one time, we'd be in trouble.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that there's a variety is very important. When people go out, they continue to go out. The more they go, the more they go.
Yeah.
So I personally want to live in a community where there's so many choices.
Yeah.
The challenge is that you can't find out what the choices are anymore. You really have to scrub through Facebook events. You really have to look at Eventbrite. You have to go to a variety of online calendars because, as you know, print media is not what it used to be. You know, when we started PASA the first time, we had full-page ad.
Yeah.
When we brought Dance Theater of Harlem here, when they were getting back on the road after bankruptcy, we had one full-page ad in the Daily Advertiser, and we did something really creative. We made all seats $5. So the full-page ad was a photo of Dance Theater of Harlem Ensemble, and all seats $5 this big.
Yeah.
And guess what? We sold more seats
Sure.
than the Hyman Center had, because the rule was if you're not in your seat by 10 minutes before showtime, we're selling your seat.
Yeah. Who's going to come? It's $5.
So-
I mean, so where are you?
But we're in the digital world, and we are in direct mail.
So, look, because you had a background in journalism and marketing, like you're working at the Times of Acadiana, back when print was a very different animal, right? I'm
Yes.
thinking to myself, like, the trade-off, as we've been told, is that you should be spending less money on marketing but getting more value. Is that not been the case for you?
No.
No.
Because the types of shows that PASA brings in are not the branded shows. A lot of people think we bring in everything at the Hyman Center, that we do the Broadway shows. We don't. That we do the Nutcracker. We don't. That's all there's so many different companies producing at the Hyman Center or presenting
Sure.
at the Hyman Center. That is not the case for us. And then just a conversation that I had with Performing Arts Houston last week, we have the same show that's going to be on our season next year. And they're going to spend $35,000 on digital marketing for 3 shows. Now, of course, that's in the 4th largest city in America.
Right.
But we know that we're going to be bumping ours up too, because the more you spend, the expectation is the more you will reap at the box office.
Yeah.
And the importance of educating the retail consumer, which is who we're marketing to, is the retail consumer, on what it is, because no matter whether we have a branded show or not, every experience that we bring in is great. And that's why our tagline is, when PASA presents it, it's great.
Yeah.
If you see our logo, it's going to be great.
Brian, I mean, I got to think, I remember when Topgolf was announced in Lafayette, right? And it didn't seem like you would have needed to buy that much press. There was a lot of earned media, as what they would call it in my business, right? But I think at some point, right, the excitement of this new thing that somebody's experienced in Baton Rouge or another community has to wear off. I mean, what is the sustained marketing strategy? Is it just changing a different day? Hey, we're going to have, like you were talking about earlier, right? You got a Tuesday where it's half off on your swings, right?
Yep.
So, like, is it trying to game that? How do we get people in the door? I mean, how do you just sort of sustain it? I mean, at some level, you got the big net. Everybody can kind of see it if you're within 500 yards. Of
A long way.
Yeah.
A long way. You
Yeah,
could
that
definitely
helps.
you could see
Yeah.
the net from a long way, but. They do different things. Like you said, the discounted gameplay on Tuesdays, it's half-price gameplay every Tuesday. That draws in a big crowd for us because it's a good deal. You go during the day, it's only $15 an hour.
Yeah.
So saving the money. But, no, they do different things. Being owned with Callaway,
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money and do some advertising for us. They're getting more into
Callaway,
the digital.
the golf club company.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're starting to do a lot more digital, a lot more things on Facebook. We're always trying to get different specials going throughout the year to keep the excitement there.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Lafayette, it's not the first place that I've opened in Lafayette in my career.
Yeah.
Lafayette does it big.
Yeah.
They all want to go try the new shiny penny and see what's going to be happening and all those kinds of things. So to keep that excitement in Lafayette, you got to do a good job. So we're always working on different things.
Yeah.
And Christian, from our audience surveys, we know that our ticket buyers come from social media and from word of mouth. And I would think probably that's something that we have in common,
Yeah.
Brian, is that word of mouth is so important, and that's
a lot.
why you build the experiences that you do for your fans.
No, it is. And just walking around, getting to know everybody. We have what we call the Platinum Club. And you can buy a membership to where you don't have to pay anything for gameplay whenever you come. You get 20% off of food and drinks and retail stuff like that. Just going out there and getting to know them by name and making that connection with them is a big thing here in Lafayette. Everybody, like I said before, we think it's a really big town, but it's a small town, and people really want that connection and you to call them by their name.
I mean, Jackie, does your acts, right, the folks that you bring in, I mean, do they see on their end of the transaction that they're buying an audience? I mean, I'm thinking about it from my own perspective as a publisher, right? I mean, a lot of what we do is we talk to people, hey, you're going to reach these people. Do they care about that, or is it
No.
more? No, not at all.
No, this is a world that is really driven by expression and by fees. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes on. We have a great group of colleagues in Texas and Arkansas and Oklahoma that we can block book with. That's when you say you're going to have this artist on March 15th, and I'm going to have the artist on March 16th, and Brian's going to have the artist on the 19th. And the way it works when they're on tour is artists want to make X amount of dollars in a week.
Yeah.
So artists don't care how that's split. And I've done a lot of block booking myself for shows that I wanted to have in Lafayette. For Dance Theater of Harlem as an example, I signed on to the entire $215,000 fee and brought them to Louisiana to 5 cities.
Wow.
For the first time in 13 years when we did it.
Wow.
They didn't care who was paying what. They just wanted the check.
Money is money. Who gives it to them? Not
And
their problem.
so my good fortune is that I have worked in businesses all along where I was negotiating contracts. So what my job really is about negotiating a contract with an artist, with the media, with the consumer. Because, you have a contract when you sell a ticket with a person that you have to fulfill.
Well, I want to go back to something you said very early on there, Jackie. It doesn't take convincing, it takes money.
Listen, when Herbert Hyman called me one day and he said, "Come over, I want to talk to you." So I went over and he said, "What's it take to get Tony Bennett here?" I said, "Well, $100,000 in a jet." He said, "Okay, how much is the jet?" And I said, "Well, the jet, he's going to be coming from Dallas. It's going to be $11,000. So the next thing I know, in the room, he's given me a check for $11,000. And then Tony Bennett, is that a risk? Was that a risk? Absolutely not. And we priced the the first 4 rows at $150 a person.
Wow.
And Herbert Hyman bought them all. And then he sold them to his friends for an upcharge.
Yeah.
And there was a party afterward.
Well, it's never really a risk when you're betting
No.
on a good product.
And listen, when Itzhak Perlman came in, I had 6 people who put up half of his fee.
Yeah.
And this is what we did. We sent out a postcard, but this was a different time when people knew who Itzhak Perlman was. We sent out a postcard, and we ran what was an 1/8 of a page ad in the Times of Acadiana,
Yeah.
and we sold out in 6 days.
Wow.
And, who is that artist today? Who is Itzhak Perlman of today? Question mark. Who is the Tony Bennett of today? Question mark.
I think it's Chapel Roan.
But is Chapel Roan only $100,000?
Probably not.
And does Chapel Roan play a PAC, or is Chapel Roan going to be at the Cajun Dome?
Probably neither, if we're being honest. But
Superdome.
Superdome. Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, look, it's a competitive industry out there. All you got to do is put something smart on the stage or the field, and you can have confidence that people are going to buy into it. Jackie.
Not really.
Not really. Okay, maybe not. I take it all back. Thank you both, Jackie, Brian, for joining me on Out to Lunch Acadiana.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
My guests on Out to Lunch Acadiana today have been Jackie Lyle, Executive Director of PASA, and Brian Roget, Operations Manager at Topgolf Lafayette. We edited this conversation to fit into our time slot here on KRVS. You can hear our unedited conversation, and you can find out more about Jackie and Brian by listening to the Out to Lunch Acadiana podcast. And you can subscribe on your podcast app and on our website, itsacadiana.com. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on itsacadiana.com and on our Out to Lunch Acadiana social media. These photos were taken by Astor Morgan. You can find more of Astor's photos at astormorgan.com. Out to Lunch Acadiana is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsacadiana.com and KRVS 88.7 FM. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Technical producer is Eric Merle. Our associate producer is Chad Terrio. Our researcher is Leah Urdialis, and today's show was engineered by Dylan Papineau. I'm Christian Mader, editor of The Current, Lafayette's nonprofit newsroom, and to get the scoop on Lafayette, head over to thecurrentla.com and sign up for our free newsletter. We'll see you here next time for more business and conversation on Out to Lunch Acadiana. See you later.
Out to Lunch Acadiana was recorded live over lunch at Tsunami Sushi on Jefferson Street in downtown Lafayette. Tsunami is open Tuesday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, serving sushi, sashimi, salads, and authentic Japanese grilled dishes. Tsunami welcomes casual dining or reservations. More information at servingsushi.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937, with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to local, national, and an international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by J.P. Morgan Chase, a partner in financial planning. Looking ahead to retirement, growing your business, or for commercial banking, J.P. Morgan Chase offers advice and solutions tailored to individual needs and client well-being. More information is at jpmorganchase.com. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com. If you'd like to be part of Out to Lunch, to learn how your business or organization can become an Out to Lunch program partner, email info@inobroadcasting.com.